Check 1, 2. All right, in part 2, we're going to discuss what each component of the equation represents. And in upcoming videos, we're going to demonstrate how they work. So the intent of this episode is just to scratch the surface, just to provide an overview. Okay, so overall, what's the core of the GAGUT equation? Well, the core of the GAGUT equation is Gij, comma j equals 0. And what does it propose? What does it posit? The equation proposes to encapsulate all the laws of physics and mathematics, suggesting that every phenomenon in the universe can be derived from this single equation. Okay, now let's discuss the major tenets or overarching principles of the equation. They are as follows. Number 1, the divine connection. The Grand Unification Theorem posits that the universe is governed by a divine force or God's spirit. Okay, this aspect of the theorem links scientific principles with spiritual beliefs, asserting that the fundamental equation is a manifestation of divine will. Okay, number 2, the mathematical and physical unification. The theorem aims to unify all the known forces in nature, including the gravitational force field, electromagnetic force field, strong nuclear force field, and the weak interactive force field or weak nuclear force field. Okay. Moreover, it also seeks to integrate various mathematical theories and principles into one coherent framework. Okay, let's break down the components. Number 1, the big G represents God. God is the ultimate force. God or goddess is the ultimate power in the universe. Okay, now for the subscripts, the IJ, comma J. The I represents God's material, and this harkens back to what we talked about in the previous episode, that within the primordial waters of creation existed a latent form of energy, potential energy. Also existing within the primordial waters of creation was a formless substance, a substance with no form. There's no subatomic particles, there's no atoms, there's no molecules, there's no thing, there's no particles. It's just pure energy matter, okay? Or spiritualized energy matter. Okay, the J represents your space-time dimensions. Let's say 4 dimensions, time and space. Okay, space broken down into your X, Y, Z coordinate lines. Okay. The comma represents transformation. We're going to talk more about transformation, mathematically speaking and physically speaking or scientifically speaking in upcoming videos. But just as an example, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It's merely transformed from one form to another. It merely transforms from one form to another. Okay? So example, electricity can be converted into heat. You touch the light bulb, the electrical energy is converted into heat energy. A car engine, take chemical energy and that's converted into mechanical energy. If you drive an electric car, the electric motor is converting electrical energy into mechanical energy. If you drive a fuel cell vehicle, you go through 3 conversions: chemical energy to electrical energy, and that electrical energy is converted to mechanical energy. Okay, so energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It merely changes form. All right, the J represents materialization. For example, energy concentrated into matter. Okay, the concentration of wave energy is what we call matter. So all matter is basically just energy that's vibrating at different frequencies. Okay, then the equal sign represents balance. Ma'at. Ma'at is the ancient African goddess of harmony, balance. Okay, and it's set equal to 0. And we're going to drill into that a little bit deeper, okay? So both sides have to be balanced. They have to be equal. All right, so let's explain a little bit further. Okay, so the GIJ represents the components of the unified force field. Now, we know today those four fundamental forces I just mentioned, although there may be other forces that are discovered in the future. The equation also takes that into account. Okay, so what is a universe? The universe is characterized by motion, and motion is generated by force. So if you want to understand the universe at a fundamental level, motion is where you start. So to understand the universe, the most fundamental concept that we can study is motion. Okay, and motion is generated by what? Motion is generated by force, hence the unified force field. Okay? Therefore, the universe can be described as a large force field wherein matter can be seen as a concentration of the force field G. Okay? The GIJ is therefore representing the conservation of the large force field at a given space-time point in the universe. So every point in the universe is taken into account. This covers all space-time. Okay. Moreover, the characteristic solutions of Gij, comma j equals 0 are given as eta sub n equals G sub nj times x sub j to the n plus 1 power, which are basically the characteristic motions. We can derive the equations from the characteristic motions of the universe that's always in perpetual motion. Okay, and also eta sub n are called, eta sub n is called the proper time or proper space or space-time variable, generalized by the Grand Unification Theorem form when we set n equal to 1. Okay, so set n equal to 1, we can recover all of the equations, the physical equations that describe motion, the motion of the celestial bodies that move in an elliptical fashion. And you can use it to describe the curvature of space, which is hyperbolic. Okay, we're going to get into that more in a future video. Like I said, we're just scratching the surface here. Okay, so again, the most fundamental of these motion characteristics is waves. Okay, and then when we set eta sub n, when we set the n equal to 0, we could recover the equations that describe wave motion. And this includes both classical and quantum waves. So what does this imply? Well, this implies that everything in the universe begins as waves, and matter can be viewed as a concentration of waves experiencing high force field intensities within the unified force field. Okay, now remember, this also explains the wave-particle duality in quantum physics. Well, if the universe started as waves and particles emerged from that wave field, then they must retain some wave-like characteristics. Okay. And quantum mechanics is wave-based physics. All right. So in sum, GAGUT unifies three major accounts for the universe's creation. Number one, the universe transformed from the Word of God. That's the religious book account or holy text account or biblical account. Number two, the universe transformed from a big explosion, the Big Bang. That's the scientific account. Number three, we already talked about the universe transformed from the water waves of Nun. Okay, so think about the equation, and in the equation you have the comma represents transformation. Okay, the universe is always in a state of transformation. It's always recreating itself. Okay, so in part 3, we're going to begin to unpack the Grand Unification Theorem by exploring the generalized universal equations for conservation of the unified force field. big G. So stay tuned.